So we've painted the box in the background. We've taped it off. We've painted the box. And we've pulled the tape off. And now we're putting our flowers on. Just basic, simple petals. This will really just help our ground ourselves with the size of our flowers, right? Because if our flowers seem small, we can always make them bigger. Always, always. And we can do secondary petals in the background. If folks could check their microphones and make sure you're muted.
Excuse me. I'm getting this cover over your painting. It says this meeting has been recorded by the host or participant. And it says either leave meeting or got it, and you press got it and nothing happens.
Oh, it didn't go away?
Hold on one second. I'm sorry. Just a second.
Hello, hi Wendy, it's Kit. I just got your text.
I'm just gonna see.
Okay, so what do we do to get back to the picture?
Let me change the spotlight. I'm gonna spotlight this again. Did anybody else have that issue? Is it the same?
It's the same. It's the same. Is it,
If you want to log out and come back in, I can let you back in. Maybe that will go away.
all right, I'll be right back.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, it won't even let me do that. Damn it.
Maybe your computer froze. There might be like something happening.
Yeah.
Are you on a phone? Are you on a
I
computer?
got it. I got
Okay,
it.
cool.
Okay, so we're doing 2 layers of flowers. Okay.
Yeah, so this is the thing is you can do a second layer behind, but just I would focus on the overall basic petals first, and then you can kind of build your flower out. So one of the things that we're looking for is if we drew like a circle around, that would be just fine. But I'm just doing nice and thin outlines. If you want to fill in the outlines as you go, you can. But this is, again, it's just all taking our time. You can fill in the flower petals. It's going to take several coats. This paint is sticking really well. We may not need as many coats as last class. And this is a great color. And we'll come in and add some depth and some other.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Yep, and I am just going to make sure everyone is muted. Let's see here. All right, but everyone just take your time. This is the part where it's just a little bit of downtime where you're just building in these basic shapes. And you can see it's fun to experiment with how wide your petals are, how long they may be. I'm using this, it's a number 3 brush. If you wanted to use the 4 or the 5, even if you wanted to use a smaller brush, you could. Your petals could be different sizes, anything goes. So we're really just doing these basic foundational petals of our sunflowers.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get off and come back on because this isn't working.
Okay, no problem. I'll keep an eye out. I'll let you right back on.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And you can just fill in these petals. It's good to fill these in once you have the size that you want, because we're going to have to do another coat, right? So by filling in the petal, it's going to dry, which is our best friend here, so we can add more detail to it.
Oh, where are you?
All right, I'm just slowly working my way around. We're not touching the middle of the flowers because we're going to do a brown in there.
Okay, it's trying to get in.
Okay, I'll let you in just one moment once I get a notification. I haven't received a notification yet. I'll let you in as soon as I see it come through. Does it say waiting for host?
It says, click allow in dialogue shown by your browser. If you don't see a dialogue, click launch meeting.
Yep, so you can click allow and that should get you in a little further.
Click allow on the dialogue. I don't have it. I don't know what to do here.
A small gray box, or it should be a white box that popped up.
Just said Zoom support English launch meeting.
Launch meeting. Try that. And I'm keeping an eye out.
Yeah,
So-
it said allow, but it's not.
It might take a minute to click through. You could also refresh the page and try loading it again. Sometimes it's like a caching thing on computers.
I'll go away and come back with another computer.
That's all right. I'm here to help, so
Thank
let me
you.
know. Of course.
Oh, there you're back. I don't know how the hell that went. Oops, excuse me. Okay, I'll mute now.
Okay.
If it doesn't cover your background, is that okay? Or should we
Um,
put more?
We're going to do another coat. So you're going to do one single coat first, and we're going to come back and add another. So don't worry. It's going to have to come in with more layering, so no problems there. Good questions. It's really just about getting in one coat at a time. And what I want you all to think about as you're painting these flowers and you're filling them in is, imagine the shape. You're drawing a circle kind of around these flowers. And if you wanted to change how any of these petals were appearing, if you wanted to add a little petal kind of popping out to kind of fill out the sunflower appearance, like if there's any major gaps in between petals, you can always put another small petal in. But use your eye. And if these aren't traditional sunflowers, like my last class, they're more or less like pretty yellow flowers. That's okay too. Whatever happens, happens. But just do enjoy the process. Do what comes to you. We try not to be too critical when we paint. It's just really about looking at the overall shape and the composition of the flower. For me, I'm just kind of looking at this top flower saying, is it doing what I want it to do? Do I like the shape? Do I want to add any more petals? And that's where I'm just really being in the moment. Here we go. And we'll add more depth, and you can kind of look at the balance and the evenness around your flower. There we go. So our flowers will truly start to evolve as you do these basic layers. And we will make them look, we will highlight the petals, I promise. We will make sure the petals come out. But I'm adding some thinner brush strokes in between these petals just to add more layering. So you can see I did some smaller brush strokes around this one in the top. Again, you can switch to a smaller brush if you want to. And I might make the brown, my center, a little bit bigger on this top right corner. So just know, work on the petals right now. The middles will really help determine the sunflower factor along with the petal work you're doing. So just do these basic coats for the petals is exactly what we should be doing right now. So I'm just bopping around from flower to flower. And I'm still using a number 3. I'm going to come in with a smaller brush after. But if you wanted to use a smaller brush now, you could. And sunflowers typically have some like thinner leaves as well. So this one down here, I might just do some more thinner leaves, a little more thin in posture compared to a wider petal. So play with that a little bit. And you can always change the shape of a petal if you don't like it. And we can do that. Many tips and tricks. We can do that along the way here. And the brown centers, again, will really help ground us. the world of sunflowers. But take a couple deep breaths, maybe stretch your back, stretch your arms out, stretch your neck from side to side. Check your posture. Take a deep breath in and out to enjoy this therapeutic part of creating our flowers together. And we're just doing single coats. If you want to do a second coat while you're in here, feel free. I am working on the basic forms of our petals, just like many of you. And again, I acknowledge everyone moves at different speeds. So take your time. Your petals can also, they don't have to go straight out like a firework. They can kind of bend and weave and tie into one another. Petals on flowers, you know, theoretically they're designed to achieve one thing or another, but sometimes the shape changes or the direction of the leaf changes. But someone asked about, you could see the blue background. 100%. You can see the blue background. Just let this first base coat dry and we're going to come in. Again, trusting the process, we're going to do several coats. But just to make sure you have all of your petals in place. And this paint is sticking and holding much better than the last paint on top of the blue. So actually use less paint, which is nice, than the last class. Awesome. It's a higher quality paint, imagine that. The brand is Reeves, if anybody's interested in looking that up. All right. So the middles of my flowers, they look very fourth grader. I'm not worried about it right now. One of the things I'd like to talk through as you're working on these petals is the space around your flowers. So I want you to look at your canvas and look at the space around your flowers. You can have as many or as few flowers as you wish, but there's other elements that we're adding to our canvas today. We're adding green foliage, which are green leaves in addition. And we'll be adding a couple like small, like white flowers kind of tucked in. So I want you to hold some of this background space where you can, because I am planning to add in some green leaves up here on the left. I'm planning on adding some green leaves here on the right and some down here on the bottom left. So this is really being in the moment and painting what you're doing right now, but also thinking about and knowing what's coming next. So I'm sharing that now so you can really determine how you want to hold your space, if you want to add more flowers, if you want to make these bigger, etc. In the last class, some folks had a lot of space, a lot of color still showing at the end, and that was really beautiful. So again, the size of your flowers, big or small, it doesn't matter, but I just want you to be conscious, a little bit of mindfulness as you paint today of what space you have and where you might want to put things. So it's just something for you to think about as you're working on these flowers and these petals. Now I will switch to a smaller brush to do more finite detail, but I'm kind of just letting this dry here for a minute. You can see my middles just look really messy. I'm not worried about that because we're going to come in with some brown and truly make this look a little more even. So I'm not worried about that at all. But I'll take a look at the clock. I'm going to give everyone 2 solid minutes just to keep playing around with the petals and getting in at least, 1 solid coat. Yes, I can still see blue on some of mine. We're going to add more color, but maybe you want to come in with a smaller brush and play around. You can use any smaller brush I sent you, whether it's the 2/0 fraction brush, a 1 or a 2. If you want to come in and play with the petals, like the ends of the petals, or do a second coat, you're welcome to come in and do some of this detail. For me, I I come in and I do a first coat with basic outlines first, and then I come in a step like this to really refine the shapes, make the ends of the flower petals a little more rounded or a little more pointy. You can choose what you might want that to be. In every class, I dip my finger in some paint and I stick it on here somewhere where it shouldn't be. So if you happen to stick your fingers in your paints, wipe your fingers and clean them as you go. Otherwise, you're gonna put a yellow thumb on your blue area like I almost just did. So I'm gonna keep an eye on the clock. We're doing great. You can kind of come in and play around a little bit with some of the edging for your petal shapes. We have a lot more work we're going to do on these petals. So my petals are not perfect. This step was not striving for perfection. It was getting base petals in. We are not at the detail oriented part of the class yet. These are just basic shapes that you can still change and still manipulate. But it's good to let the yellow dry. Very good. And if you paint something you don't like, you can always use a little bit of this white paint if it's exterior of the box, or you can use a little bit of the background color to change the shape of a leaf or to fix or modify something. So don't get upset if something isn't quite the right way that you want it to be. And what we'll do in just 1 minute is we will pivot to doing the brown center that help ground our true sunflower form. We're going to let the yellow dry and then we'll come back to it. We'll do much more work on the petals, but letting it dry will be good. And I did a lot of different variations of the petal ends. Some of these are wider and some of these are smaller. I think it's good to acknowledge and demonstrate there's different ways you can do a flower petal, whether it's the size or the shape or how it ends or where it starts. So you can choose which you may want to try, because sometimes I am being daring and explorative by showing you different things. But sometimes if you don't paint a lot or if you haven't done something a certain way, you may not know you could do it a different way. So by showing you different options visually, you can adopt one that might, be a little bit to your taste versus another, which is good. All right. So what we're going to do next is we are going to slowly shift to doing the brown centers. So I want you to grab a little bit to make brown. You basically mix red, yellow, and blue together. So I'm just going to take a little bit of the red. I'm going to grab this lemon yellow. Ooh, the lemon yellow. How about that? Fancy. I'm going to just do a little dot of each of these and a little bit of blue. And I'm going to make a brown. So you can see, ooh, look at this blue. Quite pretty.
Hey, Megan, I didn't get a blue. Can I use one of my former blues?
Absolutely.
Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, you may not have gotten a blue. You can use green. I sent you all green, right?
Yes.
Sorry, so you can use red and green. Yep, just add a little bit of green. Sorry about that. I'm used to setting primary colors, like, red, blue, green, or sorry, red, yellow, blue, red, black, and white. And I realized I sent you all really custom colors for tonight's class. Yes, use your green. So you could use red and a little bit of green. That would probably be fine. But if you have yellow out, that's fine too. But a mixing of colors will make your brown. And if you need to change the tones, for me, mine's a little red. I'm just going to add a little bit more yellow to it and we should be good. So just take a minute to mix a brown of your choice. Mine's kind of like a warm red brown. So it's another part of these classes. It's fun experimenting, mixing colors. So when you're painting on your own someday, you feel a little bit more comfortable trying to find the right tone if you practice mixing colors together. So there's a nice warm milk chocolate brown. How about that? And we'll start with whatever brown you have. And you can do an outline for the circle. I'm using my number 3 brush. If anybody wants to use a smaller brush, you can. So the mistake I made in the last class is my center was not big enough for my sunflower. So I am being brave and daring and making my center bigger. It's so funny. My mother-in-law was here and I was like, we were supposed to paint sunflowers, Sue. And I just came out with these yellow flowers. They're not sunflowers. She goes, but I like them the way they are. And I'm like, okay, thank you. It's quite funny. But I'm making my brown centers a little bit bigger. And I think these look more sunflower-like. And I'm doing them round. In the last class, I did some like more edging. I'm going to do, these are going to be a little more round, and then we can kind of bring a little bit more of a natural tone. And by putting in these brown centers, you will be able to adjust your petals as you wish. I think I have more like sunflowers today. Awesome. Beautiful. I actually grew some sunflowers from seeds this spring into the summer, and I'm excited to see what they look like. I have never grown sunflowers before. If anyone has any favorite varietals, I would love to hear if you have any favorite sunflower varietals. You can drop them in the chat or unmute yourself. We'd love to hear if you have any favorite sunflower varietals. It's always fun to share info with one another along the way. And as you can see, I'm filling in this center. You can figure out how big or how small you want these to be. This paint has great coverage. I don't know if anybody else is having a little party over in their house right now of the coverage of this new paint, but it's awesome. The yellow, you can still see it through in some areas, but that's only one coat, so no big deal. So I'm just doing a single coat of this brown for the center of these flowers. We will add more detail, but we're going to let this dry. The center is dry. Take a couple deep breaths to enjoy the process. You'll start to notice, because none of us are perfect, that some of our petals are a little too short in areas. So they're maybe a little too long, or if I added another petal here or there, it might look more like a sunflower. That true circular, right? Sunflowers are really circular in shape, which means maybe we fill some of these blue gaps just to make that flower a little more dense as a circular focus. I'll show you what some of that looks like. I need a little love, so we can do this together. But this is where you can make some modifications. As the brown center is drying, you can make modifications to your sunflowers itself. And I'm going to use a smaller brush. And for your smaller brushes that I sent you, you either got a 1 or a 2 or a 2/0 fraction brush. The numbers are, they're gold and on the side of the brush. But this is where I want you just to refine the shape of your petals. And if you wanted to do a second coat to cover up any blue, how perfect. This should hold. If there's any questions along the way, please do not hesitate to ask. We want nice, clean edges on our petals. Nice, clean edges. Anywhere you can see blue, within your petals, feel free to cover that up. And we will add some depth and some dimension to these flowers. So hold on to your hat. We're not quite there yet. We'll do that soon. What do y'all think about this paint? You like it? I'd love any feedback. You can use the chat bar. You can just give me a reaction of a happy face or a Megan, what is this paint you sent us face? Awesome. So one of the things I teach in my classes is a little bit of mindfulness and reflection. And I want you to look at each flower as its own entity. And for me, I'm only happy with one of my flowers. Again, I'm not being too critical, but I'm being honest with the way I feel. And I want folks just to look at the petals and to say, what do I need to make this feel a little bit more sunflower-esque? Or what do I need for this to be a little bit more balanced? And for me, it's some of these blue gaps in between. I'm trying to go for a fully kind of round like sunflower. So I'm looking for some of these gaps in between petals where I could just kind of tuck in some more just to give it this more full sunflower. There we go. And see how I'm just slowly working my way around, doing little brush strokes in between. And it's just making it look a little more full. I feel like sunflowers are quite full in shape. Now, if folks are doing other flowers outside of sunflowers, last class, it's what's happened to me. You do you, okay? If you are not interested in doing a true sunflower today, don't worry about it. Do not judge here. We're here to have fun. I always give you permission to break rules up front, to have fun and do whatever comes to you. But for me, I'm starting to fill this out and it's starting to look more like a sunflower for me. And the petals can be different sizes and shapes. I'm just kind of leaning back in my chair, working on one flower at a time. At this step, right? It's about the level of satisfaction with each flower. And this sunflower is having a lot of smaller petals, which is okay. And if I ever wanted to kind of merge any of these petals to make them to be bigger, I could do that. And again, if you do something you don't like, don't worry about it. And a lot of these colors are just going to start to blend together. Like you're actually going to lose sight of some of these petals. Don't worry about that. We're going to come to that in just a few minutes. So again, just kind of look holistically across each of these flowers and refine your petals in general. And we're taking a little bit of time here because I want to make sure everybody has the time they need just to get this quite right. And I will keep an eye on the clock. Everybody's doing great. And I like to have a visual balance. So for me, I'm covering up the blue again, anywhere I see blue. But if I have anywhere that I might need I have some shorter petals on you'll notice some petals might be shorter on one side. So you can just make some a little longer. There we go. And again, if you end up having too many petals, you can kind of just start to merge some. Work your way around, cover the blue up. And what we'll do is in 2 minutes, we'll have our first flip and reveal. If anybody wants to show off their work. We always love seeing one another's because we get inspired from one another along the way. So I guarantee it, everybody's looks a little different, truly, because everybody's flower sizes are a little different, which is quite fun with this inspiration. And people are going to have a different number of flowers compared to another. I had some in the last class that were, some folks had 8 flowers, some people had 3 flowers, some people had 4 flowers. All good. So for me, I'm just doing a second coat and we'll come in and bring these flowers to life and some of our upcoming steps, but we're just getting a basic coat down. Working on the details. All right, so I'm gonna let mine dry for a minute and I will slowly transition it back to you all. I'm gonna flip to gallery view and I'm going to remove my spotlight. So if anyone's interested in taking a stretch, showing off your work, we'd love to see it when it's a good time for you. I like it. Kathy's thinking about it. Kathy, we definitely want to see yours, ma'am. Oh, there's Miss Barbara's. Awesome, Barbara. That looks great. Great positioning. I see sunflowers. Ooh, Kathy, I love it, girl. You broke the rules. Gold star for Kathy. Purple flowers. The lampreys.
This is my inspiration.
Oh,
That's
nice.
yeah, that was the inspiration. I bought some seeds like that and
Oh,
I'm
I
trying
love
to
it.
grow.
Oh, I love it. Well done. There's Sharon and Sally. Well done, Kathy. I like it. The Lamprey household, Miss Barbara Snow. Let's see. Oh, I see sunflowers. Awesome. Beautiful. Well done. I love it. Thank you all for sharing. Miss Jean is very detail oriented. I'm not going to bother her. She's really in the zone over there. Same as Kira. Kira's in the zone. We won't bother Kira yet. There's Miss Melody. Awesome. Beautiful. Miss Wendy Collins, how are you doing? We'll check in with you next. And you're muted, but I can see your lips going. And maybe we'll use a smaller brush to really bring these petals to life. And if anyone has any questions and working on these details, please do not hesitate to ask. Wendy, we still can't hear you. The mute is in the bottom left corner if you're on a computer.
How do I show you this painting?
Can you flip it around? Pick it up and flip it?
You mean, oh, like that?
Yeah. Beautiful. I see sunflowers. You nailed it. Nice. So those big centers help considerably. And I feel like one of mine is a little bigger than the others. So again, we see each other's and then we go back and we reflect on our own and saying, oh, I could make my center a little bigger here. So this is an evoluting process for all of us. Thank you all for sharing and being courageous. I know it's scary sometimes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spotlight mine again. I'm going to keep an eye on the clock. You all have inspired me to make my sunflower centers a little bigger. Some of you really nailed it. I think you did a better job than I did. So I'm going to expand some of my sunflower brown centers, be a little bit bigger, which is so funny. I haven't painted a lot of sunflowers, so it's about being a little courageous. There we go. So it's okay for something to evolve, and we're all experimenting with that. Here we go. Acrylic dries quickly, so if you ever paint something you don't like, you can always fix it. There's always some way to cover it up. So don't let this stress you out. And I know many of you are taking your work very seriously, and I respect that, but make sure you're kind to yourself along the way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give everyone a full minute just to play with whatever details you're working on, and then I'm going to transition us to the next step. We all just have basic petals right now. There's no depth, there's no detail. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes, but we're going to let our work dry for what it is first. And then our petals will come to life with a little bit of our depth techniques. But I'm just going to clean my brushes. I'm going to stretch. If anybody has a water or tea next to them, feel free to take, 10, 20-second break for you. It's good to slow down and enjoy the process. But we're going to transition to doing the green leaves next while our sunflowers dry. So again, I am pacing us to move to another step so we can let our flowers dry so we can come back to them. I call that bopping around. It's a very professional term. All right, so I'm gonna get my green. Now, a little bit of a sneak peek. There's 2 greens I have now. So some of you may have gotten the light green. Some of you may have gotten the phthalo green. I think I sent the lighter green to today's class. So but in the future, you might get our phthalo green. So come back again. But I'm gonna get that green ready. And it's the light green. I sent you all 1 green color. So I'm slowly transitioning us to doing the petals. So this is, and I'm just doing a small dot. Okay, is there a question?
Yeah, I use this green as the background.
Okay, great question. So I did too in the Thursday class. So you catch me at the right point here. So if you did a warmer green, a lighter green, for me, I did a kind of a green grass green in the Thursday class, and I did darker leaves. So if anybody did a green that's about this tone, you can do a darker leaf. If anybody did a dark green, you're going to do a lighter green leaf. So that's the example of that. So if you have a really lighter background, you're going to do a darker green leaf color so they stand out. And if anybody did a darker background like me, we're going to do a lighter green color just to make sure it stands out, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do a nice lighter green leaf. And you can determine the color of the leaf. That's really what the next steps are. But I'll show you some details on how to have some really beautiful, precise leaves and foliage as our next step.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. If we use the light green you sent us, and now we have to use dark green, are you going to tell us how to mix the dark green?
Yes. So if you need to make a darker green, yeah, no problem. So if you use the green I sent as your background, what you're going to do is you're going to put a little bit of black. You're going to mix it with a little bit of black, so you have a darker green.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So yeah, if anybody needs to make a color darker, a tiny bit of black will go a long way. That's what you would use in this case. So for our leaves, again, we're going to come back to our sunflowers. We're going to patiently let those dry. I want you to use one of your smaller brushes. And I just grabbed a number 1 brush. So if you have the 2/0 or the 1 or the 2, whatever the smallest brush I sent you, I want you to use that for this next step. And I want you to think about placement, again, where you want to put these leaves. And for me, we want your leaves to be overlapping. And I'll show you how to make a really beautiful twig-like leaf shape by doing it 1 step at a time. So if you wanted to try this, feel free. Now I'm going to put my finger kind of outside on where I want my leaf to be. And I'm going to draw a very delicate and dainty style leaf. You can do the same shape if you want. You could do a different shape. And it's overlapping the box. So this is intentional. 1 single leaf. I did it half on the box, half outside the box. Okay. And if you want to ever change the color of this green, you can do that at any point. So now what we're going to do is from the bottom of this leaf, we're gonna do a twig. And it's gonna go behind one of these sunflowers. So you're gonna do a long twig. And it's gonna go behind one of these sunflowers. Take your time. Ooh, so pretty.
Mhm.
All right. And take your time. And then we're gonna do a couple more leaves off of this. You can always change the color of the screen if you don't like it. I'm not settled on mine yet, but I'm not worried about that at the moment. Just doing a couple of petals off, a couple of leaves off of this sprig. You can tuck a petal behind one of these flowers. And we want to be, as we apply foliage or these leaves, these green leaves, you want to do it in a way that's balanced. So if you've taken my classes, it's all about a visual balance. So I'm going to do, again, green leaves in the top left. I did some on the right, and I'm going to do a couple down here on the bottom. So I'm going to do another leaf up here on the top. And I want you to look at your own, and you'll figure out what you want to add and where. Take your time and go at your own pace and adding, and this is a base color of the green you choose. We will come in and add depth to these leaves so they look a little bit more realistic. We're doing base colors first. And the tips of these leaves can be a little pointy if you want. And if you wanted to turn this into another sprig, you could. Your leaves can be big or small. They can be different sizes. Just think visually where you want to add a green leaf. It's just being a little more conscious of placement of an item. How many you add, where you add them, etc. And you're all absolutely capable of figuring that out, but it's just making sure you're thinking about it. That's why I'm talking about it. So you're thinking about it. That's the artist. Because these are the things that go through an artist's mind as they paint. Some of the things, there's a lot of things, but and they're all considerations. Okay. And again, I'm just going to find balance and do another green leaf-like on the bottom. We'll tuck in a few leaves here and there too. So it's always good just starting with some basic shapes. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. But you may come up with your own ideas on different ways of adding leaves. I encourage you to go with, do what comes to you. If you are courageous enough, I support that. My leaves have a wider body and a pointier top. You can spin your brush on the side of your plate to get a more finite point for some of the ends. And your green leaves can tuck behind your flowers. That will make it look realistic. So I'm just kind of painting on the edges of this sunflower and just tucking in this green leaf just a little bit. Pretend like the flower is overlapping the leaf. And stretch your shoulders back, stretch it out just a little bit. And then you might be inspired to add in another leaf here or there. So I'm inspired just to add a little bit of a green leaf up here on the top. You can make those decisions, what you want to add and where. And again, using a small brush will allow you to really control the edge and the tip of these leaves. And it'll also help us for the detailed work we'll do after. I want to just do a little double leaf right here. Needs a little friend. There we go. So you'll know how many you want to add and where. Just kind of lean back and reflect. And I'm going pretty simple today. Some folks might want to, add in, maybe I'll add in another little leaf right here. You can be as simple or as complex as you wish. They don't have to be all the same. I did very structured kind of twig leaves today. Twigs and leaves, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can add in a couple of smaller leaves if you want. We're just doing base coats. So this green is doing pretty well. Again, it's a little bit higher quality of a paint than we've used in the past. So it's holding pretty well on the blue for me, which is nice. So I hope it's working well for you. So anywhere you want to do a second coat of green while you're in here, feel free while leaves are drying. And wow, a second coat will really help stand out. And we'll do some depth detail after as well. Especially where your leaves overlap the background square. If there's any questions, please let me know. But you're all doing wonderfully. So a little bit more of a detail-oriented class, which is nice to switch gears. And if anyone is inspired to paint anything in particular in June, I'll be making the selection this week. So please let me know if there's anything that you are dying to paint that I could lead for our next class. Happy to do that. All right, so I'm just bopping around from leaf to leaf and just doing a little bit of a second coat here and there. And I'm just going to let it dry. I'm going to come in and do some significantly more detailed work. I'm just going to let it dry, right? It's part of the process. So I'll give everyone a minute just to finish up any of the basic first coat detail for those green leaves. And then I will transition us back to the sunflowers. This will be a quite fun part for us as the next step. Perfect. If there's any questions, please let me know. I'm just going to clean my brushes and we're going to go back to using that small brush as well. So I'll keep an eye on the clock so I don't rush anyone here. And we'll get started on the sunflower detail in just a moment. So our process and our remaining steps for today's class, it's 4:15, we're doing great on time. I'll share the remaining steps just for peeling back the curtain here. So we're going to do the detailed work on the petals. We're going to do a little bit of detailed work on the center of the flower. We will also add some tiny white flowers as an accent to our green foliage. And then I'll show you how to do some depth work on our green leaves as well. So this is really just refining some of the light in the darks, some of the shading, and the brightness on these objects that we've created. All right, so we'll slowly transition to doing the detailed work on the petals next. What folks will need is a little bit more of this yellow ochre on your plate. And what we're going to do is, for these flowers, our darker shade that we're going to be using is a little bit of red, and that's like probably too much red. Red and this ochre mixed together to make more of a darker orange. I just squeezed out like a little bit of it. I don't even think I need that much. So I'm gonna mix separately a little bit of this yellow and a little bit of this red just to make a darker tone. Ooh, look at that. It's gonna be kind of orangey. It's kind of like, I like it. We want a darker tone for the sunflower. And this orangey, it's kind of the color of, I don't know. Reminds me of like a lotion of some kind. But this is darker kind of orangey yellow. And we're going to use this to highlight our petals. So I want you to use the smallest brush you have. So it's yellow, this yellow ochre, the one that we've used for the base color, and a little bit of red. And I have this peachy color. It's more orangey though than it's more of like a burnt orange, but it's nice. And use your small brush and spin your brush so you have a nice fine point. Yeah.
Smallest brush.
Smallest brush you have. And what you're going to do is, this is where you're going to find all those petals. Then you're going to maybe find the right side of each petal, and you're just going to start to outline your petals so they start to stand out just a little bit. And you can do the whole side. Now, if you want to make this a little darker, I started down here. I can barely see it. I might add a little bit of brown to this color to make it a little darker. So I mixed the orange, a little bit of red, and it's not dark enough for me. So I have a little bit of brown left over. I'm going to go ahead and mix a little bit of brown. I want it to stand out a little bit more. And if you don't want to use this color, you don't have to, but we're really just highlighting some of these petals. And I'm just doing maybe the right side, and we'll come in with some lighter. And in the inspiration, there's not a ton of contrast. So you can decide on how much or how little of this darker tone you want. We are going to be making a lighter tone as well of the yellow. But this is, for me, it's just a way of grounding these leaves. Excuse me, on the. And we're going to come in with a lighter yellow ochre with white in this yellow in a little bit. But I'm using this really just to kind of gain a little bit of depth. And I can do little dashes and dots just to fill in some of the sides. So I'll bring this a little closer so you can see what I'm looking at here. Okay. So down here, I'm using this orange and brown kind of mixture. And I'm just working my way around, and you don't need to do a full line, but just ways of kind of bringing your eye out for looking at some of these details. So you can go around some of these. So lean back in your chair. You can use this all the way to the point of your leaf, of your petal. This is the contrasting point. In the last class, I outlined. You can do a full outline with this. If you wanted to use a darker contrasting color, I'll show you what that looks like. I'll just do a little bit of brown if anybody wants to see it. I would suggest not using a full brown. but I'm just doing a little bit of outlining. And if you want to do with this orangey, this is kind of a fun technique. You can do some dots kind of around on the brown center all the way around. Look at this. This is going to give us our sunflower seed texture, little dots. And if you want to do this all the way around, this is a great color for that. Doing little dots kind of around the rim of the brown. And if you want to do more and kind of work your way around. Circular, right? Sunflowers are very circular. So I'm doing a little round ring, a little dot with this orangey color. I just did 2 rings. So you can just use your eye, but do it in a circular form. Kind of fill in. These are the details you can play with. You can do a couple of bigger ones. Some more space in the middle. Sorry, the lighting's not great. Let's try that. There we go. It's a little bit better. So you can play with this. See how the darker contrasting orange? So this is a flower without it. This is the darker contrasting. We're going to come in and lighten this. But I want you to play with this contrasting color first. So I want you to switch and move to another flower. I'm sure many of you are realizing, Megan, this is so much detail. We could spend the next 2 hours doing this. Absolutely. But I'm here to get us going. So maybe switch to another flower if you've been just consumed with one. Maybe switch to another. So we'll spend a couple minutes working on this contrasting detail. And then we'll switch to doing a little bit of a lighter detail as well. So again, I'm just kind of outlining maybe some of the petals all the way to the tip, just to see the tip of these leaves. You could just do some little kind of dots and dashes. You could even go in the middle of the flower a little bit. It's okay to be a little abstract. You don't have to be perfectly formed. And then doing little dots all around the edges of the brown as a consideration. Don't have to do that if you don't like it. But the lighter contrast is really going to help. It's going to bring all this work to life. Little dots along the exterior. The brown. It's kind of overlapping the brown and the yellow. You can do tiny little dots. I'm doing little kind of dots and dashes. Mine are fairly abstract here, nothing fancy. Little dots. If there's any questions, please let me know, but you're all doing great. And if you do something you don't like here with this darker color, guess what? Let it dry. And you can always come back in with this yellow and paint over it. So don't feel like your soul is crushed if you paint something you don't like. It's going to be okay, promise. Know that you can always come in with this ochre yellow and paint over something. I'm just doing a little texturizing with this shaded color because the whiter contrast is really going to bring this all together. And I'm going to go to my third flower. So some of you may be ahead of me, some of you may be behind me. Just keeping us all together.
Megan?
Yes.
I'm about a week behind you, but that's okay. So for the center, you used green and red mix, right?
Yeah, that should be fine. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, just the brown. Kira's being very precise with her flower detail, which I support. All right. We support. It's so funny. This could take a very long time, but I'm getting us through most of the details. Could I help the next person?
I don't know why I'm so slow. I don't know, but it's more fun when I'm slow, so I'm just way behind. That's okay.
Fine. That is okay. It's all good. It's all good. I taught an in-person class, I don't know, like a month ago or so for somebody, it was for a fundraiser, and half of the ladies were like the uber slow folk. So I was there for like 2.5 hours because I like, I want to support them, but they all were so in the zone, so detail oriented. I supported them as long as I could, and they would have stayed there all night, I think, if I let them.
Well, that's the reason I appreciate the fact that you record it. Because, that's what I basically do is I just go off into Oz land and
That's what you should do.
then I just go back after. It's no big.
Exactly. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I could speak with my contact at ARP Vermont to see if she can just auto send the recordings moving forward. I think that probably the easiest thing, and then people have it if they need it. They don't have to send me an email or anything if they don't want
That
to.
would actually be awesome.
Yeah, I think that we'll try that because we did that for May. A lot of folks asked for it, and she goes, "Hey, can you just send me the link?" And I'm like, "Absolutely." So she was wonderful to help us with that. Absolutely. So we're just adding some of this dark orange, kind of contrasting, and I'll show you with this dark orange again if anybody's just joining us. But this was the ochre yellow with a little touch of red, and then I added a little brown to it just to give it a little bit more, just to darken it a little bit. But I'm using this to highlight, and I'm just going around to each petal just ever so slightly. I want these leaves just to stand out. I'm going to come in with white in just a few minutes to show you what a little bit of, actually it's going to be yellow and white mixed together as our lighter component. And the lighter component is where the sun is hitting the object. It's going to add that beautiful brightness. And in the picture, you can see that, and that's what we'll get with the white. But I'm also doing this dotting technique around the brown center, or like that sunflower seed effect. So cool. So this is some of the texture you can play with. And I'm doing a couple rings, so maybe 2 rings of the dots. You can do more in the interior if you want to. The middle sunflowers are actually a little bit lighter and brown. If we have time, I'll show you how to do that. A lot of details to sunflowers, so it's really fun for us to just experiment with some of these details. You put little dots in the middle, and again, if you paint something you don't like, just grab some of this brown, just paint right over it. It's all good. All right, I love it. Mine look more like sunflowers today than the last class. I'm happy with that. But oh my goodness, this white stuff is going to be quite fun. So if your sunflowers if you want them to be more bold, like in the last class, I'll show you, this is the other one that I did. They're brighter flowers compared to today's. Again, very different. This is using more of a yellow and a white. So I want you to play with an experiment, and I'll do a little bit of that here in a few minutes of like adding the brightness. But it's good to get this shaded. It's good to get the base colors in first, and then your art can evolve from there. So we're doing good for time. I'm going to move on to the lighter tone next. I am going to mix this yellow ochre with some white paint. And I'll show you how to add a little bit of brightness to these flowers. So using the same small brush, cleaning it well, and then drying it too much. You're going to mix this yellow and this white together, so you have a lighter tone. Ooh, this is going to be fun.
It's white.
So white and a little bit of this yellow ochre. And I spin my brush on the side to have a nice fine point. And then you can decide on how much you want to add and where, but I just like to go on the inside of some of these flowers And just ever so slightly, maybe just outline one side and then just do a little bit of an outline on the other. So we're just doing a little bit of white on the interior of these flowers. It's not the white, sorry, it's the lighter yellow. And this is where our sunflowers will come to life just a little bit more. And you can just do a soft brush stroke. And if you have a lot of petals like me, you can do one on each petal. You do little soft, gentle sweeping brush strokes.
Excuse me, is it in the middle of the petal or the side of the petal?
It is, I'm doing both actually, which is, not confusing or anything. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of going on the edge of the petal, and then I'm doing a couple brush strokes in the middle. So just, you can kind of eyeball it a little bit. Maybe it's based on where you put the other color. But I think the easiest approach is just to do a little bit of an outline on both sides and then a little sweep in the middle. You basically want to still be able to see the base color of the flower, and you want to see the darker contrast.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I might do some dotting. So just I'll show you what the dotting technique is in just a minute. Just happened by a mistake and I said it out loud and I liked it. But outlining these petals, a soft outline, so you can still see everything else. And if you wanted to make this really light, you could. Mine's fairly subtle. I could add a little bit more white and then it really jump off the canvas. But I'm just doing a little line. I think it depends on how big your petals are. If you have a thin petal, you can do a single line. If you have a bigger petal, you could do like a double outline, maybe on one edge and on the other, maybe a little bit in the middle. And I'm going to go a little bold. So I'll show you what this looks like. Hold this close for a minute. Let's see here. There we go. So this is with the darker shaded colors, and it is with the lighter tone. And I'm going to actually use a little bit more white so it stands out even more. So I'm getting real crazy here for a Sunday. I just want you to, I want you to see how to really brighten these if you want to brighten them. But again, I'm here as a guinea pig to show you different options. And I'm going to really add some white to this. Some of you might have already gone far lighter than me. Ooh, here we go. So you can pick and choose on how bright or how muted you want these to be. If you want to make them like more yellowy, grab some of the yellow that I sent you. I sent you 2 tones because I wanted you to have both as an option. Even use like more true white. I'll be a little more daring with the brightness. I'm just doing little brush strokes. My leaves, my petals are really tiny in some areas, so I'm just doing little brush strokes here and there because I still want to see the darker colors and I still want to see the base color. And I'm leaning back and I'm just doing one flower at a time. You could do a couple of like flicks. Again, we could spend a lot of time, but the more white you add to your yellow, the more these sunflowers will jump off the page. So you can see, and this is all like layering work. So I'm doing some sweeps on the edges. And for me, I'm going for a balance of seeing the original tone color flower, the darker tones are the shades that I added, and then these brighter colors. And the lighter yellow made a big difference. So I'll bring this a little closer so you can see it. That's the difference. And again, it's more mustardy versus like the bright sunshine yellow. If you wanted to add some of the sunshine yellow, I can get a little creative and show you what that looks like. This is called a lemon. I don't know what this is going to look like. I think it's going to be really bright, but I'll be a little adventurous for you and show you what it looks like. But keep working your way around. Ooh, this lemon is really bright. But what if I mix it with a little bit of this? Let's see. This lemon may not be the right color for the class, but I'll try it. And if I don't like it, I can paint over it, right? Ooh, so this is like very neon. Some of you might like it if you mix it with like a little bit of the other yellow. Ooh, this is very bright. This is very neon-esque. So I'm not going to do too much of this unless you want to mix it with some of that other yellow or white. It's kind of fun, I guess. And if you have any of the other yellow I've mailed to you in the past, you could always use that yellow too. But again, artwork is always about experimenting with colors and textures and shapes. So I'm happy to be the guinea pig tonight to share with you how to do this in different ways. But I'm going to go back just to this ochre and white just to do some of the remaining detail. So that's the easiest way here. And then we'll do a little bit more detail on the leaves. So again, I'll keep an eye on the clock here. I'll give everyone 2 full more minutes just to do some of this flower detail on the leaves with the lighter yellow. And then we'll pivot, at least for time's sake. I'll show you how to do some of the details for the leaves. And I'll show you how to add a few small white flowers as well. So don't feel rushed if you feel like you need to have more time. I totally understand. But I want to make sure we fit in all these details for today's class. And again, I'm just using this lighter orange, this lighter yellow, just to highlight. I might do a few bits of dotting around the darker center. It's kind of fun too. It's always fun to experiment, especially if there's no risk you can cover it up. But using a nice small brush, you can kind of control your brush strokes a little bit more. And I'm just adding a little bit of brightness to these flowers. And you can go as simple or as detailed as you wish. I feel like my style, and everybody has their own styles and approaches, right? I feel like my style is in between. I like the abstract approach, which means I don't aim for perfection, but I aim for color balance. And the more you paint, the more you'll figure out your style. And you'll start to realize that your own style is all right, right? It's just about accepting kind of who you are and how you approach your work. Just doing gentle sweeps. And I just did a funky brush stroke right here and I don't like it. So if it's still really wet, you can kind of wipe it off. And another trick is you can always dip the corner of a paper towel into your water and you can slowly, look at that, I wiped it right off with a little water on the corner of a paper towel. It's like a quick eraser because my blue is really dry. Look at that, I fixed it really quite easily. So that doesn't always work, but I got lucky. But we all make mistakes. And I think it's one of the things that I've learned over the years is just having the confidence to know, like, it doesn't mean your picture's ruined. You can always fix it in one way or another. So I'm just gonna do a quick second detail on my third flower using the lighter color. And we'll transition to doing the leaf detail. So if some of you are done, you can transition to the leaf detail. One other tip I'll share with you, I'm doing some lighter dotting around the brown center. If you want to try this, you can. Again, layers upon layers. We'll just continue to bring these flowers to life, but this is quite pretty. Just doing little dots. I'll bring this a little closer so you can see it. It's kind of fun. Again, totally optional. I just did some dotting around the edge of the brown. And I like that a lot, actually. I feel like I actually have sunflowers today. I'm excited to see all of your work, see how you have progressed. I'm kind of doing a double ring of the lighter dots around the brown. Kind of like where we put the other dots. I'm kind of going on top and layering them in. And this is just really going to highlight our eye to the center of the sunflower. So I'm going to just quickly finish up some of this lighter detail, and we'll transition to doing the leaves next. The leaves are very simple to add a little bit of brightness, a little bit of depth. Due to time and just simplicity, we're just going to add a little bit of brightness to the leaves. If you wanted to do a depth, a shading to the leaves, you certainly could. That's just a darker tone of the green that you've chosen. But I'm going to do a little bit of this dotting on the edge of the brown, and then we'll transition to the leaves in just a minute. But take a minute just to check your posture, enjoy the process, and a couple remaining steps. If anyone has any particular questions for me, please do not hesitate to ask. Hope everyone has enjoyed today's class so far. This has been a lot of fun experimenting with sunflowers. I hope you all have enjoyed it. And if you have any ideas or recommendations for the July class, I'd love to hear your ideas. Something you might be inspired to paint, please let me know. All right. So I've kind of bought my way around. I've created these sunflowers. My sunflowers are very, they're not as like bright yellow. They're more of like a muted sunflower. So if you wanted to brighten these up by using another yellow, you absolutely could do that. So it's all you in that regard. One of the final steps for our leaves. So I'll slowly transition us because of time. We're doing great with time. Two final steps left that I'll show you today. There's a little bit of a depth detail for our leaves. And then I'll show you how to add a couple of really small white flowers as a little side touch, which are quite fun. So if anyone has green leaves like me, you can either do a lighter accent or a darker accent. For me, I want to brighten mine up a little bit. So I'm going to use a lighter green versus a darker green for the secondary detail. So you can choose based on this green I gave you, you can either make it lighter or make it darker for some of the detailed work I'll show you next. So for me, I'm going to grab just a little dot more. You won't need too much. I love this. You're going to have plenty of paint left over for your next adventure here. And I'm going to add a little bit of white paint, and I'm going to make this a touch lighter. So I'm doing 50-50 with white, and the other half is this green. And again, we're going to use the small detailed brush. And I'm using this just so it stands out just a little bit. Ooh, very interesting color. If you mix a color you're not sure of, you can embrace it or change it. Mine is a very bright kind of neon style green. It's not really, I don't think, I might make it, well, I can try it, I guess. I'll be open-minded here. But I'm gonna just kind of roll my brush on the side. So I have a nice fine tip. And this is the detail that I'm going to do for this these foliage. So I'm going to start where it's dry. So this is a step where don't stick your hand in a wet flower and do smudging. I feel like every class I always get paint somewhere it shouldn't be. So on the underside, I'm going to start down here because these are wet up here. On the underside of a petal, you're going to do an outline of the petal. And this green will work just fine. This lighter green scared me a little bit. It looks fine on the paper. I'm going to outline one side. So pick the right side of each flower. And I'm going to outline the stem. So a lighter green. Or you could do the darker green. I'm doing an outline of the stem, and I'm going to go on the underside of each petal. And then on the underside of each petal, I'm just doing like a little bit of a vein coming up. This is a technique I did in the last class. I liked it. If you don't like this vein, kind of these lines kind of coming onto the leaf, you don't need to do that. I liked it just because it gives it a little texture. But this is all it is. So you're just doing a lighter green line on the underside of each leaf. And then if you wanted to do a little bit of the vein detail, you could. Just do that for each of your leaves. And don't forget to do it on the stem as well. There we go. You can see down here, I have the outlining of the leaves, and I have just some very thin green veins coming up. So I'm just gonna, again, pick the left or the right side of the leaf. Take your time. And this might be a little bit speedy, so I apologize if I speed through this. I want to make sure that we get to all the details. This will really help bring our leaves to life. This will really help our foliage stand out from the back of our canvas. Beautiful. Take your time, there's no rush. Doing an outline down one side of your stem. Allow your stem to stand out as well. And I like this contrast, beautiful contrast, greens and blues for me. I'm inspired to brighten my sunflowers a little bit more. So what does that mean? That means maybe bringing in a little bit more white to brighten it. Maybe I'll do that after. But we'll do the leaf detail. I'll show you how to do a few white small flowers. And then I'm happy to answer any questions along the way. But the recording will be available. I will ask my contact at AARP Vermont to share that out with you all. But a small green outline on the underside of each petal of each flower leaf. These green leaves, just a brighter color, or you can choose a darker color, either way. How's this detail going for everyone? I'm certainly excited to see all your work. Very excited. Oh, I just stuck my finger on my canvas. Little water. I love that trick a little bit. If you happen to, I'm awfully messy when I paint, and some of you might be the same, but I'm a lefty and I get paint on my pinky often. And I try not to do smudging, but you know, it happens. But you can see the leaves are really starting to jump off the picture, which is quite nice. And you could do the same thing with a more of a white for these flowers, right? Or a different type of yellow. So it's all up for consideration. You can pick and choose your own destiny here with what colors you want to use. But I'm excited to see all of your work. And I am just looking around. I think I got most of these flowers. For time's sake, I will show you how to add a couple of small white flowers for consideration. These are super cute, really simple, little tiny white flowers. I just put a tiny little spot of white on my palette right here. And these are like, in the last class, I did 6 petals. So tiny, kind of star-like little flowers. And I'll show you what these are. And I put them in clusters. So this is for consideration. You don't have to do it, but I'm kind of layering them near the greenery, and I'm just doing little flowers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'll put them in little clusters. It's just to bring a little bit of brightness. It's like a fun little added detail. And then if you want to have a couple of smaller like accent dots and lines, just to kind of fill the cluster. It's very cute. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it. This is very simple. And I'm gonna let Miss Lisa in here. Right. So I just did 5 or 6 little lines, and then I made it into a little cluster by just doing little kind of dots around just to kind of fill it out. And I'm going to do a little bit of this cluster here and there and kind of near the green areas. So I'll do another one. We'll do another one over here. Do one over here. So I do a couple little clusters, flowers, or little starbursts. And then I might just do a couple of lines with a couple of dots. You don't always have to paint a form to create a look and feel of something. You know, if you wanted, this is again, it's a little bit of an abstract approach of just using dots and lines to fill a cluster. If you wanted to do more particular flowers than little 6-leaved clusters, you could.
Megan, I'm gonna have to go now, but I can send you my picture later.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here. I know many of you might have to go soon. I wanted to just share this detail for consideration. I'll pause here in just a minute and we'll do a quick flip and reveal, but thank you for coming. All right, so I'm just gonna put in a couple of little dots here and there. And we can wrap it up. Anyone has any questions as you're working on any remaining details, please let me know. But I will pause. There's just a few white flowers ever so tucked in. I encourage you all to keep experimenting though. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and switch back to gallery view. I will remove the spotlight and I'm looking at each of your lovely faces. So how did this go for everyone? I would love your feedback on today's class. Lots of detail. Miss Melody has her headphones. She's in the zone. I like it. Oh, beautiful. Melody did like a frame like. Oh, there's Miss Kathy's. Well done. Ooh, Sharon. All right. I got the party reaction from Sharon. I like that. Thank you, Sharon. Beautiful. Kathy. Melody did wonderful. Beautiful, Barbara. Excellent, Barbara, excellent placement of all of your green. It's quite well balanced. Excellent. Oh, Sally, how beautiful. Excellent, Sally. Wendy, oh, that's so lovely. Wendy, you have some great highlighting detail. And there's the lampreys. All right. Excellent work. I love the pink backgrounds that many of you chose. Sharon and Co are in the zone. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to unmute, but I'm so glad you joined.
Hi, Megan. Was this recorded?
Yes, ma'am.
Where can I get it so I can finish?
I will ask my contact, the AARP Vermont, to share the recording with every registrant.
Okay.
Okay.
When do we pull off the tape?
You may pull off the tape now. If you haven't already pulled it off, you can pull it off at any point. Right. Well, I'll hang out for a few minutes. Folks continue to keep painting, but you all did such a great job. But most importantly, I hope you enjoyed this time for you and you're able to feel a little more relaxed now than before.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Megan.
You're so welcome. I hope to see you
Thank
all
you
in
so
July.
much.
Oh, you're so welcome. I hope you enjoy
I love
yourself.
the new paints are great.
Awesome. Well, hang these with pride, ladies and gentlemen. You all did quite well. And if anybody has any questions, if you keep painting, please let me know how I can support you with any final touches. Sometimes, you know, you might see something later and say, how could I just make this a little better? Or how could I modify this? But celebrate your wins, but let me know how I can help you with your many final touches. That's good. All right, well, I will let you all go. Thank you again for being here. And again, a big thanks to AARP Vermont for sponsoring tonight's event. It's a pleasure to always partner with them. You all have a great evening.